Hey guys, I'm a Gaming Potato, and welcome back to episode 10 of my Blueprints by Design series. So in our last episode, we got our infrastructure set up for the Megabase, and now we're ready to start actually producing stuff, mainly science. So, how much science do we actually want to make? Well, I figured since we're running on blue belts, if we go with half of a blue belt as our goal, that would be 22.5 science per second, which comes out to 1,350 science per minute. So I think that's pretty good if you consider the current rate. Let's see if we go over the past 10 minutes. I'm at about 120 science per minute with my original base. So we're going to be leveling up that by over 10 times the current level. So I think that's pretty good. So with that in mind, I have developed a bunch of blueprints for science that is based on producing 1,350 science per minute. Now you can see here we have our red science, and this is very small. You wouldn't think this produces 1,350 science per minute, but it does. And a good way to check is using a mod here. So if I press Control N, I can select a certain amount of assemblers, and I can actually see here what my output rates are. So you can see my items per second here is 21.5, so it's not 22.5, it is slightly below that, but that's not really a problem, it's very close anyways. So I can see my outputs and how much input material I need to actually hit that mark. So this is a mod called the Max Rate Calculator, and it is awesome if you intend to make a base, to figure out how to build your blueprints and your production areas for what you actually want to make. So of course we have productivity tier 3 modules in all of these, as is the best way to make as many modules as possible for the least amount of resources. And then we surround that with tier 3 speed modules. So you can see we have all of these science assemblers here. We have 15 of them producing red science. And in order to feed them, we only need a single gear machine here to actually make enough for that, which is pretty nice. So of course, red science is the simplest science. So we just have iron coming in here to feed the gears. And then we have copper coming in on this side to feed the copper requirement for the red science. So this is a pretty cut and dry blueprint, very simple, just raw iron, raw copper coming in. But because it does fill exactly half a blue belt, it is easy to just tile this a bunch. You could easily fit 4 of these in here to produce 2 full blue belts of red science if you wanted, which would put you at over 5,000, about 5,400 science per minute, which is insane. Like a 5,000 science per minute mega base is pretty massive. But this is enough for 1,350 red science per minute. So then, of course, we can move on to our green science. Now this one is a little bit more complex, but the nice thing is it fits in the exact same width. So you can see here we have our beacons on each side of a single stack of green science assemblers, just like the red one was. So everything fits within this exact same width. It is a bit longer. And you can see down here, it's just a little bit more complex. We have 2 gear machines this time, feeding gears to both yellow belts and yellow inserters. And then we have some materials being passed through here, basically just to reach the other side, before we have just the yellow inserters and yellow belts being fed up here to the green science, which is coming out the side here. This also produces 1,350 science per minute. And I guess if we go like this, and set this to items per minute, and this is a little bit over 1,350, we're at 1,386 there, but we can see we're definitely producing massive quantities of it. But green science is still pretty simple, so all we need to produce everything is just this little area here where we have just iron coming in, and green circuits as well. Yeah, this belt right here is for our green circuits, and then raw iron coming up this line to get back here and here, and then the gears as well. This does require 2 lines of iron though. So we have 2 blue belts of iron coming in and a blue belt of circuits. Although I don't believe it actually uses very many circuits. We can just take a look here. There we can see this whole line requires 17.5 circuits per minute, which is around 1/3 of a blue belt. So not very many. If you were to run, say, 3 of these stacks, a single blue belt of circuits could probably fuel all 3 of them, and then you'd have about 6 lines of iron plates. So again, a pretty simple blueprint. Fits within the same width as a red science. Then moving on to blue science, I've also done the same thing. I've gone with the same width here. So we have a single line of assemblers flanked on both sides by beacons so that it is the same width as the green and red sciences. But because blue science is so much more complex, you actually need 4 stacks of this blueprint to get yourself half of a blue belt of blue science, aka 1350 science per minute. You need 4 of these stacks in order to do that. So this one was a bit more tricky for me to actually figure out how to belt things in here. But I was able to belt this in a way that we can just feed in raw resources, and then we produce gears and pipes on site for our engines, but then we pipe in red belts and sulfur. So down here we have our inputs, and I've managed to feed all of these lines off just these couple of belts here. So here we have our red circuits and yellow and sulfur that comes in here and shares a line. And once it goes through the splitter, it splits that shared line between all 4 of these inputs. So you only need 1 belt of red circuits and 1 belt of sulfur in order to get your 1350 science per minute. Then in this one here, we are feeding in our steel. So you just have 1 belt of steel coming in, and this whole system doesn't use very much steel at all, actually. And then the last 4 belts are for our raw iron, which feed the gears and the pipes. So it's pretty simple, 4 lines of iron, a line of steel, a line of sulfur, and red circuits. And using our max rate calculator, we can take a look at what we actually need. So we can see our inputs are only about 25 red circuits per second. So that's not even a red belt full of red circuits, so it's not much. Same with steel, we can see this whole setup uses a little bit more than a yellow belt's worth of steel, so about 1/3 of a blue belt of steel, so again, not very much. The main thing here, though, is the iron plates. We need a ton of iron plates. So that's why each line has its own dedicated iron plate line. So yeah, this blue science one is definitely larger, but it is nice because say you wanted more of these, one of these basically fills up this city block. So you could just take a couple more city blocks, plop a couple more of this blueprint down, and produce as much science as you want. This one block right here is 1350 science per minute, which is pretty nice. So now if we take a look at the blueprints, we can see our red science, 1350 science per minute right here. The resources we need aren't very much, but we do need lots of tier 3 modules for this. So you definitely want to have your tier 3 module line running. And same with our green science. It's, like I said, it's the exact same width as the red science. And then, of course, the blue science is much larger. But I did decide to go with the same style where, it's one width and then you just copy and paste it 4 times. And that, that gets you your 1350 science per minute, which is pretty nice. And then, yeah, we got the nice organizing here for belting this all in. If you were to use trains here, it might be a little bit more complex to actually get all your belts set up for training in your resources. But in this case, we will just be belting our resources in. So with these first 3 sciences done, that should leave you with plenty to get this all hooked up. With needing red circuits and sulfur for blue science, we're also going to need oil. Really nice oil blueprint. So we can get plastic for the red circuits, and so we can get our sulfur as well. So in my next episode, I'm going to have a green circuit and a red circuit blueprint as well. And then I'll probably have some oil stuff set up as well to show you. Well, that's it for today's episode. If you enjoy my content, please like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll have more episodes for you soon. All right, thanks. Bye.